Oh, I was going to get into football initially here with Connor O'Gara, but he has a really interesting list in which he has compared every SEC team to a current country music artist.
Ooh, all right.
I got to wonder here. So he's got Alabama is George Strait, Florida's Miranda Lambert, Georgia is Morgan Wallen, Texas A&M is Luke Combs. And I got to tell you, Connor, like I've heard of most of these people, but I've probably not heard all of their songs. But why is Arkansas Blake Shelton rather than somebody who's actually from here?
Okay, so I didn't want to just do it based on that. That's lazy. Everybody can do that, right? I mean, Georgia, you do Jason Aldean, you do Luke Bryan. I mean, you could do Tennessee with Kenny Chesney, and you could do Morgan Wallen. That's boring. That's easy. Everybody knows where these people are from. Why would I just put someone who's just from a specific state? I realize I'm a big Justin Moore guy myself. That's the easy way to go. But I wanted to make actual comps here. Blake Shelton is the comp for Arkansas because who knows breakups like Blake Shelton in Arkansas? Blake,
wow.
Whoa!
Hey, I'm just saying, Blake, soon to be on his third wife since he became a star. Arkansas on its third coach in the playoff era. Blake had to deal with the tabloids with Miranda and Gwen. Arkansas had to deal with the internet with the whole Bobby Petrino scandal. I think that at their best, they were both good in two different eras, right? Like, you got Old Red, God Gave Me You, Some Beach, Boys Around Here. And then with Arkansas, you had the ground attack with McFadden and Jones. That team with Houston Nutt, so much fun. Then the passing attack with Tyler Wilson, Jarius Wright, Bobby Petrino. That's in 2011. No coaching change, no breakup keeps Blake Shelton down. They just kind of keep coming back. They're still entertaining, and they still find a way to kind of be that team that nobody really hates. Nobody hates Arkansas. Nobody hates Blake Shelton. But they're endearing in their own way. And I made the comparison as well that Blake Shelton, when he was kind of the baby face guy with the mullet, a few decades ago, that was kind of like Arkansas when it was in the Southwest Conference. Times changed, but that's why I went with Blake Shelton for Arkansas.
Wow.
Okay, so I didn't see who you've compared Tennessee to, but I would imagine it should be Carrie Underwood before he cheats, right?
Oh, see, that'd be good too. I wanted to look beyond just like a lyric, but that definitely would play. I had Carrie Underwood from Mississippi State. I could explain that in detail if you want, but I went with Garth Brooks for Tennessee because, guys, let's be honest, they haven't been good in 2 decades. But you can still play the hits.
Easy on Garth Brooks now.
No. Trust me. Look. Friends in Low Places was the final song at my wedding, and it was one of the greatest memories of my entire lifetime. I owe Garth Brooks that. I truly do. But if we're talking about hits in the last 2 decades, Garth ain't it. I mean, that's not his thing. He could still sell out a stadium, and he still has a massive following, just like Tennessee. But you're not talking about what they've done in the last 2 decades as a reason for why they are great at what they do.
I don't feel comfortable comparing Tennessee to Garth Brooks. He makes a good point. Yes, Garth Brooks hadn't had a hit in a while, but Connor, man, that cut a little.
Play the hits. Play the hits. Just like at every wedding, you can go and listen to. You can listen to Friends in Low Places, like I said, and pretty much every social gathering you can talk about Peyton Manning being robbed of the Heisman. I mean, these are two of the same.
I just want you to know this is the most I've ever had a conversation about country music.
I'm proud of you.
Any form.
You're doing good.
So. You're bringing it out for me here, Connor. Now the next assignment is to do compare SEC baseball programs to famous rap groups later on this month. You think you can pull that off?
No, I absolutely cannot. Absolutely cannot. I will take a hard pass. You would have a much better chance at that than I would.
All right. Well, I'll work on that. All right. So a couple of things to get to here. I want to get your thoughts on Arik Gilbert transferring over to Florida. We knew that he wasn't going to stay at LSU, although I wonder if Coach O thought otherwise, because he said a couple of months ago that he expected that Gilbert would return to LSU, but it seems that he cleaned his locker out the moment he, said he was opting out and was done with them. So transfers over to Florida. In his mind, I imagine to be the next Kyle Pitts, but, is there another Kyle Trask waiting there to throw for Dan Mullen? That's the question. That becomes a big question because you can't necessarily replicate success. I know that if you're Dan Mullen, of course, you're going to sell Kyle Pitts. That's the big sell. And if you're also Tim Brewster, the tight ends coach, you're selling not only did Kyle Pitts just do what he did, but you had Jay Sternberger at Texas A&M in 2018. You have 2 of the last 3 Mackey Award winners that were coached by your tight ends coach.
That's a pretty good track record. And so I think now for Florida, the question becomes, what is Emory Jones? Florida fans have been so excited about this kid for so long. He's going to be entering his 4th year of college. This is a kid who's the same age as Trevor Lawrence, but it doesn't really feel like it because he's been waiting in the wings. Now, if you can't throw the ball at the same rate that Florida did this past season, then obviously we can't expect Kyle Pitts 2.0. But, man, Arik Gilbert is an incredible talent. I mean, just an unbelievable recruit. From all the things that you heard about the kid coming up and some of the stories that you'd read about him at LSU, you're like, oh, this guy is going to make some waves. We kind of assumed that it was just going to be a return to his home state of Georgia after he was apparently homesick at LSU, and that didn't necessarily happen. Florida is able to go out and do something that it hasn't really done, which is not have a 5-star commit go to Georgia and instead go to Florida. So, I mean, I'm fascinated to see this. I would assume he's going to be eligible because that's usually the going rate for high-profile players, but we'll see. This rivalry definitely just got a little bit more interesting.
Connor O'Gara joining us here on Halftime. Connor, I want to talk about Tennessee just for a second. Now we've had a short period of time to kind of digest Josh Heupel heading to Tennessee. And just out of your estimation, what should the expectation be for Tennessee heading into the offseason, heading into next season? And do you think Heupel is the answer to try to get the ship turned in the right direction at Tennessee?
This is a great time to reset expectations if you're a Tennessee fan. And I'm almost kind of glad that they didn't have some stunning, splashy hire, which would have been poaching Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. It would have been going out and getting Hugh Freeze. I kind of like that Tennessee expectations have sort of been humbled a bit from this because I think this is more of a program that has a hopeful ceiling of sustaining the Butch Jones peak. Now, what I mean by that is you're kind of you're in the top 25 on a yearly basis. You're winning 9 games. You're a team that can put up some big numbers offensively. I think that Tennessee should be able to do that. They actually have a really good quarterback room for all the things that they've lost with roster attrition, with guys transferring and, commitments that have dropped and all that. They actually have a pretty solid quarterback room for Josh Heupel to work with in year one. He's going to be able to put up points. I don't have any doubt about that. This is a guy that had 3 consecutive top 8 offenses at UCF. I think that the question becomes, how does he recruit? Is he able to recruit at an elite level? Is he able to make the right hires from a defensive standpoint as well? Not keeping Kevin Steele as your defensive coordinator, a little bit of a head scratcher, but if there's a part of you that thinks that he was part of this coup to fire Gus Malzahn at Auburn, all right, I understand that. But I think that Tennessee fans should be able to reset these expectations now and understand that your goal isn't to win national championships on a yearly basis. It's not the 90s anymore. This is a very different era of college football that we're living with. If you can put up top 20 offenses on a consistent basis and have that team that consistently can win 9 games and you actually look like a more competitive team against your rivals, I think that's a much better bar to shoot for than, we have to be at Bama levels of success. It's not happening, and Josh Heupel's not going to be the guy to get him that level of success.
You present a really good case there, Connor, but good luck convincing Tennessee fans to try to accept lower standards.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy because it's all or nothing. And I find myself being so in the middle with these hires. Like, think of how many people were bashing the Sam Pittman hire last year. And everybody wants to assume that it's either a home run or it's a swing and a miss. And to me, there are so many things that happen after a coach is hired that's going to determine whether or not he has success. And I think Josh Heupel falls into that camp. He's not destined to fail. He's not destined to succeed just because he went to Tennessee. He's another Tennessee head coach. I think that there are a lot of things that are going to determine how well he performs, including how he handles just being a group of 5 coach going to the Power 5 ranks, which, really we kind of don't talk about it very much. But in the SEC, since Urban Meyer, we really have not seen a lot of those group of 5 to SEC jumps turn out very well. So I think that there are a lot of questions that he has to answer. But, Tennessee fans, the second that Josh Heupel wins a game that he's not supposed to, the hype train will be off and running. That's the beauty of college football.
Want to get your thoughts real quick on some Arkansas football news. You've seen several different coaching changes happen, and for what you just mentioned with like Sam Pittman, what some people thought it might be a swing and a miss and a home run. But Connor, he's been able to make some changes this offseason that should theoretically help out the offensive side of the football, particularly in the hiring of the tight ends coach. What needs to happen for you to where Arkansas can continue its upward trajectory, hopefully into 2021?
Yeah, I think I brought this point up before, but it's the coaching staff retention. I think that when coordinators aren't getting poached from your staff the second that they get some big time opportunity, and I think that says a lot about your culture. I think it says a lot about what you're able to do, the commitment that you have toward your assistants. I think building that is so important, and Sam Pittman's been able to do that so far. And they're not necessarily getting their staff picked apart left and right. Obviously, there are good things that's usually the byproduct of some good things and some success, like what Alabama's had to deal with this offseason. But I still think that projects really well for Sam Pittman moving forward. And, you're going to have to make these moves. I think if you're making these moves without it necessarily being wholesale changes, you can capitalize on one of them. Like Florida getting Tim Brewster as a tight ends coach a couple of years ago, that's not necessarily a move that we look back on and say, oh, wow, this was how Dan Mullen was really able to change Florida or, take that offense to the next level. But, look what it did for Kyle Pitts, and look what it's going to be able to potentially do for somebody like Arik Gilbert. So those staff hires, they are important. And while we probably make too much of them at times, I think that they do matter, and I think Sam Pittman's just done a really good job of being able to build up that staff and make Arkansas a much more attractive job than it was a year and a half ago when, the likes of John Chavis would go there and it seemed like kind of a dead-end job.
Last thing before we let you go, Connor, real quick, what you got in the Super Bowl this week? Buccaneers or the Chiefs?
I can't bet against Pat Mahomes. I would take Kansas City by a touchdown. But even that, it just doesn't feel – I don't know, because they've let so many teams hang around this year too. Like they really haven't put their foot on the gas in a game like until they did last, I guess week and a half ago against the Bills. But I think we're about to see a repeat here, and I think the Brady stuff, he gets exposed a little bit more when he sees a much better pass rush and a Chiefs defense that's going to be ready to go.
Connor, appreciate you, man. We'll get your thoughts on actually what does happen in the Super Bowl next week. And I know it's not a thing really anymore, but National Signing Days in 2. Can you imagine that? And we're ending the break here, but National Signing Days in 2 days. No one's talking about recruiting because it ain't really National Signing Day.
Weird times, man. Weird times.
Really
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, that's Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. You give him a follow on Twitter at CJ O'Gara, and he joins us every Monday. I wonder a little bit about the idea of the Tampa Bay pass rush, which was so successful against Green Bay, and the O-line for Kansas City is like completely rebuilt. They're both their starting tackles not playing in the Super Bowl, and I don't know if you're going to see the Chiefs necessarily at their best. Anyway, 877-377-6963. We'll come back, wrap the first hour up, so stay around.